Star Wars Battlefront is a series that inspires reverence and nostalgia in millions of both Star Wars and shooter fans, and its first couple games had every player involved in some memorable scenarios. Star Wars Battlefront hooked countless fans during its explosive debut years, with its Star Wars aesthetic and themes mixed with arcade-style, sprawling battles. It took a long hiatus after Star Wars Battlefront 2, with a sequel in development at one time, but ultimately being scrapped. It took Electronic Arts securing exclusive Star Wars publishing rights for the series to finally see life once again, with the 2015 Star Wars Battlefront reboot and Battlefront 2 left unfinished by EA. DICE's duo reboots have their charm and moments, but Pandemic's original efforts in the universe far, far away still hold a special place in many players' hearts and still have them coming back for some rites of passage all Battlefront players must take. Star Wars Battlefront is well known for its large-scale space and ground battles between various eras and factions of Star Wars, featuring all manner of rebels and troopers shooting through just about every scenic Star Wars location. Loadouts between standard and special troopers are diverse and fun to use, and heroes can be key factors in any battle once they are permitted to take the field. The graphics were respectable for the time and displayed the Star Wars universe well enough to strike awe in players back in 2004, but a mod for Star Wars Battlefront 2 remasters the visuals for a more modern palette. The universe and mechanics represented in these earlier titles lent themselves to some very common habits that many players tried at least once. Feeding the original Battlefront's Sarlacc pit. The Sarlacc pit is a Star Wars staple that appeared in most of the Star Wars Battlefront games, with the kind of functionality most would expect. Strangely enough, it would be the first game in the series that would have the most complex and developed version of the Sarlacc, with Battlefront 2 leaving it out in favor of focusing on another of Tatooine's main attractions, Mos Eisley. DICE's remakes would feature the Sarlacc in both entries, but functions more as a hole in the ground than a real creature. The original Star Wars Battlefront did it best as the Sarlacc is an active participant in battles, albeit an immobile one. The Sarlacc's many tentacles are true to its source material, scooping up troopers and heroes alike and instantly killing them. Curious players will inevitably wander into the Sarlacc's range and watch their character get gulped down by the enigmatic creature, but after long they'll start developing strategies around the Sarlacc. There aren't many practical uses for playing around the pit, but one is possibly baiting heroes into the grasp of the beast. There are some blind spots of the Sarlacc's sweeping tentacles that players can hide inside and shoot at enemy heroes, and since Star Wars Battlefront's heroes' worst aspect is range, requiring them to jump into melee combat, players might be able to provoke them into leaping inside the Sarlacc's grasp and getting an easy kill on an extremely powerful force. Not knowing how to destroy Battlefront 2's capital ships. 2005's Battlefront 2 introduced spaceship combat was exciting and studded with Star Wars charm. After an adjustment and learning period, players would find a fun and action-packed spacefaring mode to complement the addictive on-ground combat. However, dogfighting isn't normally the end goal of space combat in Star Wars Battlefront 2, it's to tear down the other side's capital ship, which is a multi-step process and not one that's entirely clear starting out. While players in most situations could eventually win the battle through racking up over 150 kills against enemy starfighters and the like, there's a potentially quicker way by sabotaging, bombing, and disabling the enemy's capital ship. Star Wars Battlefront 2's story mode does give some instruction on how players can properly destroy capital ships in the first space mission, but it only tells them half of the necessary destructible components and doesn't show off the functionality and uses of ships other than the default starfighter. The gameplay evolving around the capital ships is actually fairly fun. The simultaneous attack and defense of guarding the player's capital ship interior while attacking the enemies, and a fair mix of space and ground combat. It's a shame the game doesn't properly instruct players on how to participate in it and instead leaves most players just shooting down 180 bogies. Sharing a last stand with a partner in Battlefront 2 Star Wars has plenty iconic moments and characters defying the odds, including Elite Squadron's strange clone GD story, but what makes the Battlefront series so exhilarating is getting to play the average rank and file soldier. Either by accident or maybe from throwing troopers off the map 100 or so times just to test themselves, players can end up fighting against a considerably larger opposing force. It's a tough task for just 2 units to take all command posts with a full army ahead of them. Skilled players may know how to use the maps to their advantage or exploit the enemy AI, but no matter how they play it, it's a dangerous mission with survival unlikely for the player. Star Wars Battlefront is a blend of intense arcade shooter action and large-scale battle strategy, with the originals remembered fondly and the reboot series surpassing longevity, even proving it's not too late for a Battlefront 3. For some fans, nothing else fills that same niche that puts the player right into the thick of the harsh laser wars in the stars as the average trooper sent to make the difference in a fight. Star Wars has an exceptionally rich universe and a feel that isn't often replicated, and Star Wars Battlefront offers a tone and approach to the source that can't be found often in Star Wars games. The fan demand is always there for another entry, so now it's just in the need of the right moment and the right studio to bring players another war to win.